Good morning, everyone. It's Jamie from Independent Street Tarot and Seasons from Ritual, and I'm here with my good friend, the Crimson Cadaverous, Helen, who looks very ethereal today, floating in space, bringing in some good vibes this Monday. So it is Monday, the 30th, the day before Halloween. This is a beautiful
Yes.
time, especially I think, weather-wise, but in the spiritual community, this is always a beautiful time.
Yes, it's definitely a really beautiful time. To me, I love to celebrate it by going to the cemetery. That's just like my personal thing. I know that sounds a little morbid, but that's
Give
um
reverence.
yeah, exactly.
I'll do my altar and I put out my plates of food. And, and this is the first year since my puppy passed, so I'll put out a little thing of dog food.
Oh, yeah, that's nice.
Okay, friends, it is Monday the 30th. We are in our second week of Scorpio season.
Yes.
So today the moon is in Taurus, which coming out of eclipse season, I know everyone, I mean, it was just a couple days ago, so we're still in the throes of the eclipse.
Yep.
That was also in Taurus. So
Yep. And we're really, in my opinion, we're really going to be in the thick of it until we hit that Scorpio new moon in 2 weeks.
okay.
Kind of just because, again, whatever the lunar eclipse is the full moon, so it's the culmination. We still
Hmm.
got to go kind of like back down, through the energy, like sort through it. And I always think about this time right after the full moon as the time of self awareness. So the
Hmm.
revelations that have come up, and you're like, okay,
Hmm.
now what do I do with them? And it's like the sort through period. So I definitely think it's important to remember that, eclipse season is a whole season. It's not
Hmm.
like just the solar eclipse, it's not just the lunar eclipse. It's the time, before and after, and everything that kind of transpires with it.
And I think it's interesting too, like because it was in Taurus and we were making the joke that, the bull doesn't move very fast. So,
Yeah.
which in any sense, whatever sign it would be in, like you said, it would be that accumulation to the new moon. But I just think it's funnier that it was in Taurus. And so Taurus is really still going through things. So I will say this though, what's coming in for me is like more determination,
Yeah.
so in a good
Absolutely.
way, not like stress or anxiety, but just determination. So,
Yeah.
um, anything else you want to say about this moon? Uh,
Um,
Taurus?
just, I definitely think it's important that once we have the moon move into Gemini, we're going to have the moon squaring Saturn and then also squaring Juno and Lilith. And I think, again, with that like self-awareness that we're talking about, like we're becoming aware of just some like, foundations that, aren't as strong as we thought they were, some commitments we know we need to liberate ourselves from. And like, again, it's a period of self-awareness. Like we've got a trine with Pluto today, so it's like digging deep a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
um and I think that's okay. Like I think it's something that, like, I want to say that, wherever we're at with that, like we want to kind of just hold space for it, and like,
Yeah, because also,
self-awareness, but also self-acceptance, like where it's like, yep, okay, maybe that's not as strong as I thought it was,
right.
but got to
But
move forward and do something with that.
yeah, that trine with the moon in Taurus, trining Pluto and Capricorn. It's important to remember, you guys, Pluto's direct, so it is going to bring in some new energy. So maybe things that you're like having aha moments with, it's like, oh, okay, that's fine. You
Yeah.
know, we can work on it. Like the determination, like I can be determined. Determine's not a bad thing. I know it's going back to my word that I'm using, but also just other things that come up, like, oh, okay, I can work on this and it's going to be, there's no self-judgment. It's just like we can work on it. Um, and
Yep.
and then, as you said, later in the day, the moon will move into Gemini. And when it moves
Mhm.
into Gemini, it's squaring Saturn, who's still in Pisces, and then it'll be squaring Juno and Lilith in Virgo.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's a big conversation.
Yeah.
Um, so let's move into Tuesday with the moon in Gemini.
Yep. Continuing conversations.
Yeah, sextiling Chiron and Aries, which again, Chiron is our healer. Aries is that motivation. Gemini is ruled by Mercury. You said Mercury is going to be a big player this week.
Mm-hmm.
And so those conversations. And again, with Chiron, as we see as the great healer, again, it's not, there's no judgment. There's no judgment on what comes up.
No, and I think, it's interesting that it's coming up on Halloween, which is, definitely a time period where historically we're actually remembering things from the past, remembering, people who have departed. And I think, if we're going to have this sextile with Chiron, it's almost like maybe healing some ancestral wounds where it's like maybe, you know, like a family member that passed that maybe like, it wasn't a perfect connection, like healing something with that and just being like, well, I could still love that person and, let that go or whatever. I
Yeah.
definitely like things like that kind of coming up. Again, deep ancestral things that we can kind of just find some grace on, find some peace on.
I think that's really beautiful, Helen. And if nothing else, you can love yourself.
Yeah,
Even if this person that passed didn't show you love and affection, they weren't the end all be all about who you are as a person. So make sure you tap in and love yourself for sure.
absolutely.
Did you want to talk about Venus and Virgo trining Uranus and Taurus?
Yes, I think that's a really beautiful energy also because I think, we have been going through a lot of changes recently. A lot of things have been shifting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Venus trining Uranus, so Uranus is the change, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Venus is like finding the beauty in it,
Mm-hmm.
especially the trine. Like there's no challenge with that. It's like, it's almost like somebody like holding something up for you and being like, look, this is actually the beautiful thing that came out of everything you just went through.
And
I,
you're like,
I think,
yeah.
yeah. And I
Okay.
think there's something with that, especially because of earth signs, maybe like finding some grounding in the changes.
Oh, that's really beautiful, Helen. And again, that's on Tuesday, our Halloween day, which is to a T going to be freezing here in New Orleans. It's been hot and beautiful and maybe a little too hot for this time of year. And then on Halloween, it's like 47.
Yep. Yeah, of course.
I always say sexy cop can't catch a break. And I will never stop saying that joke. So don't think next year it's not going to come out. It will. Okay, Wednesday is a big day. You and I were talking about it off camera. So I'm going to let you set up Wednesday for us.
Yes. And so Wednesday, okay, so we talked about this a little bit last week where we
Mm-hmm.
were talking about how, because of where all of the planets are right now, we're basically going to have, depending upon, whether or not the moon is in a feminine or a masculine sign, we're going to have the moon, when she dips back into feminine signs, we're going to have all the planets in feminine signs.
Mm-hmm.
So we're dipping back into that on Wednesday once the moon moves into Cancer. And so the moon will be in Gemini and to start the day off with. And at that point, we're going to have a little bit of like kind of like a loose T square between Venus in Virgo
Mm-hmm.
and Neptune in Pisces. And so I always think about Neptune as like the higher octave of Venus.
Mm-hmm.
So Venus is, attached to love,
Mm-hmm.
but I always think about Venus as kind of like conditional love.
Mm-hmm.
Like, like I love you because I find you beautiful, or I love you because you give me things, or, that, which isn't necessarily, to say always what Venus is, but it's
Right.
definitely a more tangible love.
Okay, that was the word I was going to use, like tangible, touchy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then Neptune to me is just kind of it's all things intangible. And
Mm-hmm.
so to me that translates to unconditional love. And so it's like, that connection to the universe, that connection to source, that like we love everything and everyone, but we can't necessarily explain it. And it's not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily because everyone and everything gives us something, so there's not like necessarily that kind of an exchange.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being like a T square, it's almost like there's some kind of like balance that we're trying to find between those two things where it's like, we're finding value in the love that we have, that we're not, getting taken advantage of, so to speak, and going, is this, making sure that things are valuable in our lives, but also still recognizing that everyone and everything does actually have value.
Do you know what this is bringing up for me, like big time?
Hmm.
I saw it was that those, and I hate to bring in this energy and we were talking about those things, but the Middle East stuff, but also the tragedy that happened in Maine.
Mm-hmm.
They were talking to a man whose son was a victim in Maine, and he was just crying but he was also crying because of the person who was who was the shooter. And he was saying being a parent and losing a child because of that, at the same time being a parent of a child who committed that kind of crime. It was one and the same. It was
Yeah.
one and the same. And so what you're talking about with Venus being something that would be practical or tangible love, but that
Mhm.
Neptune being that higher octave of like that spiritual love coming in is what we really need right now. It's because of what's going on in these situations. Like you can't explain it. Some of this man is saying, I have empathy, I have love, I have compassion. And someone could question that and be like, but how could you? But he just gets it. This person just gets it. Like there's healing, there's love. We are all connected. And I feel like how you set up that beautiful energy on Wednesday is bringing in that, like you said, it's not tangible.
Mm-mm.
How can you explain that? Like no, we can call for peace, we can have love. It it's not tangible, but it's there and people feel it.
Yeah, and I think that actually may be the big challenge on Wednesday is like just finding some kind of a balance between those two things. And
Mhm.
like maybe like finding some place to like surrender to that. You know,
Yeah,
like surrender to the fact that like there is love that like you can't you can't hold or touch, but it's something that you know and it's
you
there.
feel. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the same thing with peace. Yeah, peace does exist.
Hmm.
You may not have like, a book that tells you how to do it or something, but it does exist.
The tangible book of peace.
Ah, God, if that existed, somebody who
Yeah.
figures it out does need to write the
Okay, was there anything else you'd like to say about Wednesday? What a beautiful day. All Saints Day, Day of the Dead starts,
Yeah.
a beautiful
Yeah.
time.
I mean, but then once again, the only thing I would say is that again, once the moon does move into Cancer,
Hmm.
we're back into that, all feminine planets place. And I think maybe you said it last week about it, the feminine energy being about receiving. And I think that's probably the thing that we need to keep remembering is that some of this energy that we're moving through, we don't have to do anything with it besides receive it.
Take that, check. I need to remember that too, Helen, because I'm always,
Yes. I mean, I think that's really important because I think
yeah,
maybe we might go a little crazy, try to do something with it, when it's like it just needs to be.
just needs to be. Okay, so as you said, Wednesday, the moon will move into Cancer. So Thursday, the moon will be in Cancer all day.
Mm-hmm. And I
Um,
think to me, actually, this is going to sound crazy, but I think the big story of that day is what's going on with Vesta.
hmm
Because Vesta is in Cancer,
hmm
forming a conjunction with the moon.
That means they're
But
right next to each other.
yes, but then also same day stationing retrograde.
Hmm. And
So Vesta is our spiritual flame. She's our connection to, what we're devoted to, why we get up in the morning, why we do our routines, what's really like driving us, firing us up.
hmm
Um, so if she's connecting with the moon, so they're both in Cancer, which is
hmm
about, the home and nurturing and caring for oneself.
And the
It's
moon
almost
rules Cancer.
yes.
Yeah.
And it's almost like reminding us to like come back home to like, we're doing this ultimately for ourselves.
Hmm.
Sounds selfish to say,
Hmm.
we're taught, in our modern society, we're supposed to do it for everybody else or everything else. But at the end of the day, we're doing this for ourselves. And like, we have to maybe re-examine that. Like, are we actually doing the things that, are honoring us versus are we doing it because society wants us to, someone else wants us to, this whole routine I have, for my day is because, I read about it in a magazine. This is what I'm
Hmm.
supposed to do. It's like there's some kind of reconnecting, relighting that home hearth within ourselves.
I think that's a good, I mean, still think it's bringing in those energies from the day before where the spiritual side and being intangible with the moon, was just as our intuition, home in Cancer. Cancer, like you said, is ourselves, our home. And Vesta is our spiritual flame. And when
Yeah.
we start reconnecting to that spiritual flame, why are we here? What are we here on earth to do? And if it's to be like to be love, to be love, we can't. tangibly explain love. We can't tangibly
Right.
explain, but so I still think it's calling in that energy and receiving it, like you said, from from Wednesday. Um,
Yeah.
and I always think it's a really beautiful day when planets station. Like when you throw the ball in the air or something and it hits that point and then it moves again. And so with Vesta stationing that day in Cancer, I just think it's that beautiful, probably like we're going to have a lot of aha moments because
Yeah.
it's like just being held before the action starts again. Anyway, in my mind, that's how I see it. So,
No, I agree. And it's interesting because when you mentioned like about like why are we even here?
hmm
I'm thinking actually about that other, transit that's happening that day with the sun opposing Jupiter.
hmm
And it's like, so I'm seeing that as like the sun being the ego, the self,
hmm
Jupiter just being the big picture, the whole,
hmm
so it's like that big vision of like, how are we fitting into that whole? Like,
yeah,
what are we doing here? Like, personally, like, obviously everything's connected. Everything is, we're all here for a reason. But like, I think there's almost like some kind of like, again, like the sun shining opposite the of Jupiter is like almost like shining a light on like the big picture of why we're really here.
right. I mean, I agree with that. Sun in Scorpio, opposite Jupiter and Taurus, because Scorpio and Taurus are opposite on the wheel.
Yep.
Which again, water and earth, they need each other.
Mm-hmm.
That's why opposites attract. I don't think that's a bad thing. But Sun and Scorpio bring Scorpio secrets, bringing things to the light, right?
Yeah.
Jupiter is in Taurus, that Earth. So bringing things to light that maybe need to be unearthed so we could see the big picture. Jupiter is also fun.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe that's the thing, like almost like kind of like burning off some of this like crud, like I keep thinking like taking ourselves so too seriously.
Yeah,
Almost like something like Jupiter coming and be like, yeah, you're a fuck up, but so is everybody else. Like,
right. Like just like
whatever.
brooding, like everybody was like brooding and so serious. And it's like, enough.
Right. Yeah. Like you made mistakes just like everybody else. You're not the worst person in the world. Just
No,
move on.
go have a lollipop, eat some more Halloween candy. Jesus.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
There's something left over.
Right. Save me all the Reese peanut butter cups. Okay.
Yeah.
Friday. The moon will still be in Cancer.
Yes. So continuing the whole all planets and feminine signs. So
hmm
keep that in mind.
Okay.
We're very, very much in the receiving energy.
hmm
We do have a lot going on that day, but the two things that just really pop out to me are Moon and Cancer opposing Pluto and Capricorn,
Okay.
and then also Venus opposing Neptune.
Okay.
So, of course, the Venus opposing Neptune, we were very close to that on Wednesday when we had, that kind of like T square with the moon.
We talked
Um,
about it a little bit last week.
right.
Yeah.
Um, but then that perfects on Friday. So
Okay.
Venus is exactly opposite Neptune. So again, whatever the moon was helping us feel and understand about, conditional versus unconditional love,
Mhm.
tangible versus intangible, however you want to say it. Um, it's almost like we're really coming to see it. We're really
Okay.
coming to, look straight across at it and understand it.
And feel it, I would imagine. Feel it.
Yeah. And again, I think there's almost like something similar with the moon opposite Pluto. So
hmm
it's like anything that, but has been unearthed recently,
hmm
we're actually really going to see it and we're going to feel it and we're going to be able to, I guess you would say, do something with it.
It's this strong, it's Venus and Virgo, Venus and Virgo, Virgo is Earth, Neptune and Pisces, both of those are water. And then you
Yeah.
said Pluto, Moon in Cancer is water,
Hmm.
um,
And Pluto in Capricorn is Earth.
Capricorn, right, is Earth. So it's still like we're bringing in all this water and earth, water and earth, water and earth. So,
Hmm.
um,
Ooh, what keeps coming up when you're saying that is I keep thinking mud.
I do too, but also
Not in a bad way, but like
no, it's
where
helpful.
it has a form now.
Right.
The water now has a form because of the earth.
Right. And I was thinking like clay huts,
Mm.
building things in clay, being able to stick things together, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? And it making that the perfect clay that you need, a clay mask, things that are helpful, but like it's creation again,
Yeah.
creation. Um,
Yeah, there's a
yeah,
lot of creation energy with both water and earth.
yeah.
And again, when they mix, it's like it's something you can mold. It's something
Hmm.
you can make into something. So it's like neither thing, you know, has the form that it once had to begin with, obviously, but because they're now together, like the water helps the earth flow a little bit more.
Hmm.
And then like the earth helps the water take form.
Right. And so you guys, you see how this works together and really use this. I think that's why the energy feels so soft and beautiful because it is such a powerful time of creation, and sometimes it's hard to get that message across because we see the other things, the other tragedies that are going on. And so it is important to disengage, you guys, and really connect to yourself and manifest. This is a powerful time of manifestation and creation. So please do that. And also know when it's all these feminine signs, like we said, we're receiving. So it's not about running 62 marathons and getting all this stuff done. It is like this pace that you get, that you start to understand, you start to feel really creative. Keep pen and paper. Your ideas are going to be flowing, friends. Flowing.
Yeah.
Just be ready.
Yes. Agreed.
Okay. Friday, we move into Saturday. Okay.
Yes.
Saturday, the moon will be in Cancer in the morning, but then the moon will move into Leo.
Yes. And really, the only thing going on with the moon that day is, obviously Cancer to Leo, and then a square with Jupiter,
Okay.
which, again, squares are challenging, but we got Jupiter involved.
Yeah.
Um,
Keeping us grounded.
I'm going to say, like, it's going to be kind of similar to what we were talking about with, like, the sun opposite Jupiter a couple days before.
Hmm.
It's almost challenging us to have a good time, challenging us to not take ourselves so seriously.
I was going to say challenging our ego.
Yes.
Because Leo in its lower vibe is mega ego, but Leo in its higher vibes is inspiration, you know? So, squaring Jupiter, who's in Taurus, Taurus is going to keep us grounded, and Jupiter is going to be like, you need to have a talk with your ego.
Yeah.
You don't need to take yourself so seriously.
Yeah. It's almost like coming in and being like, yeah, it didn't work out the way you thought it was going to, but didn't you still have fun? Didn't
Right.
it still work out?
Maybe
Isn't
you
it
learn
still fun?
something. Right.
Yeah,
Carry on. Yeah.
exactly. And speaking of learning something,
Yes.
we got our little buddy Saturn stationing direct.
Which I'm
And
excited for.
what's that?
I'm excited for.
Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Like Saturn, of course, is a great teacher and he's always helping us learn how to be more disciplined. And I would say, actually, there is a very strong self love energy within Saturn. And I
Mhm.
think there's something about our modern age where we've forgotten this because we're like, if someone's holding us responsible or
Right.
discipline, it's bad. And it's
Mhm.
like, actually, when you hold yourself accountable, when you hold yourself responsible, when you show up for yourself, it's like you can build a solid foundation for your life.
Right.
And that to me is like more self love than like surrounding yourself with a whole bunch of beautiful flowers.
I
Yes,
agree.
that's beautiful, but those flowers aren't going to pay your bills. Those
Right.
flowers aren't going to, like do the things that like need to be done so you can be stable.
Right.
And so I think with Saturn, there's an energy with him that like if we can actually like remember that side of him, like he, like Pluto, only really wants what's best for us. So
Right.
it's like if he's coming in and being like, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Right. And I love that Pluto's station direct. I mean, Pluto's now direct and then Saturn stationing direct.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
It's like, okay.
I'm just gonna say, like, there's just lessons that are coming up for us that we've been like, inwardly contemplating while Saturn has been retrograde, about those foundations, about the structures in our life, and like how are they built? How are how
Hmm.
like if the wind blows, are they gonna fall down?
Are they falling down right now?
Right. And
Right.
is that okay? And maybe there's a lesson in that like, there's some structures that are falling down right now, but like they probably needed to.
Yeah, 100%. And also, Saturn is in Pisces, in case you guys need to know.
Yes.
Um, Mercury in Scorpio will be opposite Uranus and Taurus,
Yes. And then also conjunct Ceres.
who's also in Scorpio.
Yes. And so, that Scorpio energy is transformation. It's, the things that are hidden to us, the things that need to be dug into and unearthed, the mysteries. But they're the deeper truths as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if we think about like Mercury there and we think about Ceres there. So Mercury's communication, intellect, thinking, using the mind,
Mm-hmm.
and Ceres is how we nurture ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like there's some things like, some old paradigms that we're transforming so that we can nurture ourselves better. Like the old, patterns that like maybe, our parents or somebody else put for us that weren't actually healthy, but they kind
Right.
of had handed down.
Right. I was
We're
gonna say
pretty
that aren't nurturing. Yeah, things that aren't like we come to light like, oh my God, I've been doing this all this long and this sucks.
right. I
Yeah.
think that's something like really particular that maybe like everybody of our generation can resonate with. I'm sure a lot of our parents had us eating things like TV dinners and stuff or
I was thinking
prepared meals.
Pop-Tarts because I was like, God damn it. Not that I've had a Pop-Tart in a million years, but the idea
Right,
of giving up a Pop-Tart, I don't even eat them now. But anyway, I get what you're saying.
right.
TV
Or
dinner.
like processed foods of some
Right.
form
100%. Yes.
because that's what they grew up eating.
Right.
Like during that generation, like that was like the big time of like TV dinners and like,
Mhm.
like boxed mac and cheese and like all those things came out to make our lives more convenient.
Mhm.
We all are knowing now, like, they're full of chemicals, they're
Yeah.
not fresh, they're not, they're not giving us the nutrients we really need.
Right.
So that to me is like a perfect thing that can like come out during like a time like this. Like, we once thought that like it
Mhm.
was, better to have a quick meal that like, you just pop in the microwave because that's what we were taught.
Right.
But we're realizing it's not, and that's not how we're really nurturing ourselves. Like we're changing that attitude, we're changing that pattern.
I'm here for it.
And I think definitely the Mercury opposite Uranus plays into that too, because Uranus is change.
Yeah. And Taurus is
And,
Earth and
right,
Uranus is in Earth. So what's coming
right.
from
And
the Earth?
Uranus is awakening. So it's
Yeah.
like we're awakening to this like new mindset that we need to have. And again, this is really interesting because Mercury, Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury.
Mm-hmm.
So, we were talking earlier
Yeah.
about Venus, with Neptune being the higher octave. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like all these oppositions. So it's like we're almost like kind of being given this opportunity to look at kind of like I don't want to say lower vibe, but maybe, like the more mundane side of
I
things
was gonna say, yeah.
versus like, the higher minded, cosmically connected
Which
idea of something.
which should just be the easiest way to go. Like one of the things with like unhealthy things or whatever you want to call them is just it's convenient. When if we
Right.
just make the healthy things convenient, it's still convenient.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
So
I think there's a lot of that maybe going on for us, like us kind of recognizing that we have been handed down a lot of unhealthy habits when it comes to like love, when it comes to,
thoughts.
yeah, our thoughts, things like that. And like knowing that like they're sort of our foundation,
Mm-hmm.
but we also have to be kind of like reaching higher because we know deep down that's not actually our foundation.
Right.
That's not actually what we're rooted in. That's just
Right.
kind of like, I guess you would say the defense mechanisms that are kind of layered on top of
Yeah, it doesn't nourish us.
it.
And
No,
serious is all about nourishing.
right. Eating some junk food might feel great in the moment, but like
Right.
it's not, there's
Thinking that
nothing.
shitty thought might make you feel great right then because it powers you up to then redo something that you don't even want to do anymore. Like you can have a happy thought and still get the same shit done, Yeah. So this is a big time of change, you guys.
It
Um,
is.
it
And
really
that,
is. I know you and I say it's a big week, but this is a big week of, especially with all this feminine energy. It is all about receiving. I can't
mhm,
take notes, speak into your phone. This is a good time to be very creative.
yeah.
Okay, we end the week on Sunday with the moon in Leo all day, which I
Yeah.
think is okay. My moon is in Leo and I'm okay.
I love Leo energy. So I am a Leo sun, you know that.
Thank
So
you.
I think, we were talking about change, and what a way to end the week
Hmm.
with quite a bit of, I would definitely call this change energy, because we've got the moon squaring the sun, which, gives us our quarter moon. So depending upon if the moon is waxing or waning, growing or receding, we would have the first quarter moon, obviously, if the moon was waxing, which is
Right.
not at this point, but the moon is waning, so receding, and we have the last quarter moon.
Hmm.
So anytime planets square, it's a challenge. Anytime the sun and the moon square, it's like a challenge to take action towards something. So if we're releasing, that's what we're doing right now while the moon is waning. It's like taking action towards releasing something. Like
Hmm.
something that came up during that lunar eclipse was like, you're done with this.
Woo.
Time to go, but you have to actually physically make it go. You can't just put the clothes in the bag and put them by the door. You have to physically put them in your car and take them down, to the Salvation Army or wherever you're
Yep.
going. Like you gotta, actually take the action. And I think we actually have a lot of help with that. And I'm going to say it honestly, like maybe it's going to sound a little harsh, whether we want this help or not. Uranus is going to come into it.
It will.
Um,
That's what it does.
and I think that's
The
important to
revolution.
remember, that is there. Uranus is basically T squaring
Hmm.
last quarter moon. And again, Uranus has changed. So whatever these things are that, like, again, the old paradigms that we're still clinging on to, I don't think we're going to be able to
Right.
after that.
No.
And there's something really refreshing and beautiful about that, but there's also something like maybe a little heartbreaking because it is like a comfort zone.
Sure.
And I think maybe that's why Ceres is here too, to almost like kind of nurture us and like hug us through it and be like, it's okay.
Right.
It's,
Also, Chiron.
it's okay. Like it's
Yeah.
okay that I'm leaving.
Yeah. I was gonna say also that Chiron help nurture,
Yeah. Help
'cause
heal that wound of like, even if something's leaving that isn't something that's good for you,
mhm.
there's still a wound that's left. There's still
Right.
a heart.
But again, you guys remember Chiron is in Aries, and Aries is that initiation. So it's really beautiful because the moon is in Leo, which is fire, right? Leo is fire, fixed fire. And then Chiron is in initiation Aries, which is flame as well. So it's a lot of like burning, healing, carterizing all
Yeah.
together because Uranus and Taurus, like you said, bringing in revolution,
Mm-hmm.
Sirius and Scorpio, seeing how we can nourish ourselves. So, and remember, two things can be true at once, right? Like it doesn't have to always be one or the other. Like we can hold two thoughts. I can have compassion for something, but not really like it at the same time. That's that does exist
Yeah.
because I want to change. So work with this energy, but also see that I want to say because it is a lot of movement. Um, it can be deep movement, but it doesn't have to be frantic movement. It doesn't, and if things come up and you're like, then sit with it and let that feminine energy come in and soothe and just be like, okay, like we can do this, we can move this through. I don't want people to be scared, like scared or always just like, because we have tools now.
Yeah.
So, in this week, with this beautiful energy, moon and Leo squaring the sun. Sun is in Scorpio, our self, the sun's our self-esteem, right? And it's squaring the moon in Leo, and Leo is our self-esteem.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
so if these things come up, know that you can intuit it, right? Moon and Leo, have confidence in your intuition abilities, right? And then that Scorpio, if it's bringing things up from the bottom, have confidence that you can transmute and move these things through.
Yeah.
That was a really long way to say that, but
I got what you're saying.
okay. Leo and Scorpio, the sun is the masculine, the sun is in Scorpio, which is Scorpio seen as a masculine sign or feminine sign. feminine sign. So the sun is our masculine, it's in Scorpio. Scorpio is a
Mhm.
feminine sign, watery, fixed water. The moon is seen as our feminine.
Mhm.
The moon is in Leo. The Leo is masculine because it represents the sun. So it is really like a true opposite um energies going that day, but showing us how they work together.
Yeah. Yeah, I think again, I think that's the ultimate thing with that day and with just this week in general is that there can be opposing forces that are working together. Opposing doesn't always mean you're on opposite sides. That just means you're looking across at somebody and you're doing things differently.
Yeah.
All of the signs, that are complementary of one another oppose each other.
Yeah.
So it's like you know, think about like Leo Aquarius axis. Like there's so much that like, they can help each other with because it's like I'm very much this and you're very much that.
Yeah.
So it all works out.
Right. So just remember that, you guys. It all works out.
Yes.
Oppositions help each other.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a seesaw, like it's
Yeah.
balance.
Yeah. And that's what we're doing. We're rebalancing everything right now.
Yeah.
Everything. Okay, friends, we're gonna leave it there. Helen, is there anything else you'd like to say?
I don't think so.
You
I
did a
think
great
just be
job this
kind to
week.
yourself this week and,
Yeah, you did a great job.
thank you.
Yeah. Okay, friends, if you need me or Helen, you know how to reach us. Instagram, YouTube, my websites. If you guys have any questions, please reach out below and I'll see you guys Wednesday. Have a happy Halloween. Happy Halloween.
Halloween.
Um, I will be handing out candy.
Nice.
It's one of my
I'm
favorite things
hoping,
to do.
I'm hoping people come to our door. I think they might.
Okay. I gotta go get some candy, but
Yeah.
all right, guys. Until then, see you next time.
Bye.